LUCEA police are seeking the public's assistance to locate 26-year-old Horace Grant, otherwise called Darren, of Case Hill District, Cascade in Hanover, who has been reported missing since December 10, 2021. He is of dark complexion, slim build, and approximately 5 feet 7 inches tall. Reports from the LUCEA police coming into our news center are that at approximately 11 a.m., Grant was last seen at home wearing a white t-shirt, a green shirt, and a pair of green and yellow Reebok sneakers. All efforts to contact him have proven futile. Anyone knowing the whereabouts of Horace Grant is being asked to contact the LUCEA police at 876-956-2333, Police Emergency 119, or the nearest police station. In other news tonight, the Kingston Central Police yesterday listed some individuals as persons of interest. Among the men listed is the alleged leader of the POW gang.
Rickton Arden, O.C. Ricky, the leader of the POW gang, right down there, sir. Shaquille Irvin, O.C. Tika, Bottom Maiden Lane. Nicholas Seymour, those are you know him by Buju. Of all the names that I've called thus far, this particular individual is of high interest to the Kingston Central Police.
This young man named Buju, I heard that he was trying to come in to me today. He's trying to get lawyers to come in. You know, I hear that he has interest in coming in to me personally, which I will avail him when he comes. So I am making it known that anytime he's ready, he can come forward. Because here we call him whilst we were up at Beeson Street and we're calling him here. So it shows you how far his influence spread. So I want to speak to him.
Jeremy Brown, O.C. Bighead.
The police further listed additional men as persons of interest, including Marius Davis Sr., otherwise called Brother Dog, alleged leader of the Gully Gang.
Matthew Williams, he's from 31 Water Lane. Now this little young man is not from this space, but he finds himself here. And he's allowing himself to be used by others to do bad things. Just across over on the east side, Marius Davis, O.C. Brother Dog. He's the leader of the Gully Gang. Ray J. Gray, O.C. Gossey. He's of 14 Foster Lane, also of 113 Charles Street, but mainly feature in the Foster Lane area. Jerome Noble, O.C. Little Willie, 14 Fleet Street. Richard Williams, O.C. Black Boy, 31 Water Lane. Now, all those persons, the Kingston Central Police need to speak to you and needs to speak to you urgently. So get your lawyers and find yourself at Kingston Central by midday tomorrow morning. Or earlier. And we want all family members here to make them aware that we need to speak to them.
Persons who are able to assist detectives to locate or make contact with these men are being asked to contact the Central Police at 876-922-5076, Police Emergency 119, or the nearest police station. Continuing with the news tonight, Prime Minister Andrew Holness yesterday expressed his distress at the rate of violent crimes being committed in the country, which he says has sidelined peace in communities and has posed a challenge for him to sleep peacefully at nights. Here is Colleen May with more on this story.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness, while speaking at yesterday's National Day of Prayer at Power of Faith Ministries in Portmore, St. Catherine, says the level of violence in the country has sidelined peace in communities.
Country is not at peace. Families are not at peace. Right? Over 70% of homicides committed in Jamaica, murders, are gang-related. And that is as a result of the lack of peace. So the family is very important in building peace. So we have to focus on how we're going to get the family to be the unit of peace, and that will have an impact on the 20%. But the family is a component of another important structure in the society, and that is the community. And our communities are not at peace. You have gangs in the communities that are conducting internecine wars and feuds, literally. And those gangs conducting this warfare in your communities account for 70% of the murders.
In an emotional plea to criminals operating in the society, Prime Minister Holness says the level of criminality posed a challenge for him to sleep peacefully at nights and also has a great impact on families.
I read in the papers today of the two brothers who were murdered in Westmoreland. I am so sorry about it. Why you kill the 10-year-old? Why? I go to my bed with these things on my conscience every night. I know that I have tried. It's a minefield. Because every turn you make, there is someone who is trying to stop it, and I have to wonder, are they in support of the criminals in the country? The 10-year-old didn't have to die. We are there, so he down there. We put it in Westmoreland. The two brothers never had to die, man. We said we have to put in stronger measures for guns. And there are those people in Jamaica who turn their mouth on it. As if to say we must allow the criminals to have the guns. When you see me say what I say, because I'm a firm believer, I'm what you call pro-life. But when I say I would make an exception.
He also described the year 2021 as a year of bizarre, as some strange things have happened in the island which have disrupted daily routines.
2021 has been the year of the bizarre. Some strange things have happened in Jamaica which I've never seen them happen before. But the disruption in our daily routines has caused many persons to be searching for answers. So the mental health and wellness of the population has been affected by the pandemic. And it's not just in Jamaica, it's all over that there is a shift in the mood of the population. So there is an increase in violence. And then the greater uncertainty in the country has created a space in which false prophets can emerge. Have you seen that happen in Jamaica recently? Turning away from listening to the truth and wander off into myths. And many of these people who you see coming up talking all kind of foolishness, they are mercenaries being paid to execute an agenda, to mislead and misdirect and disrupt. I'm urging every Jamaican to refocus at this time.
Prime Minister Holness, in his address, said the government is not a part of any COVID-19 vaccination conspiracy, as this is a liberal country.
The government has never said that it is going to force anyone to take the vaccine. I just want that to be clear, because I have heard it on pulpits before from pastors who sound very convincing as if to say that, you know, the government is a part of some conspiracy. I want that to be clear. Government is not a part of any vaccine conspiracy. Rights and freedoms of the people take priority. And I respect that. I am the greatest advocate for the liberal democracy. Before there is anything that could even vaguely resemble a mandate, there has to be widespread public understanding and agreement that this is the way forward. Now, what I detect is that there is great hesitation about vaccines because people just don't know enough about vaccines.
He said that the priority of every family and that of the government is to get every children back into school.
The pandemic has disrupted our way of life in ways that we have not yet fully understood. When children are not able to go to school and are deprived of a year of learning, or almost 2 years of learning, the impact of that on a country like Jamaica is incalculable. So priority number one for this government, but also for your household, I'm going to substitute that word now with another one, the priority for your family, which is the theme of our gathering today, must be to get our children back in school. I am placing that above everything else right now. The pandemic has revealed, which we have always known, that our family structure is not evenly strong enough across the society to take care of our children without the support of the schools. There are families who have grown stronger and their kids much more brilliant in the pandemic. But that is not the case for the vast majority of Jamaican families.
Reporting for Mello TV News, I'm Colleen May.
Thank you, Colleen, for that report. We go now to tonight's COVID-19 update, where the country's positivity rate now stands at 46.8%, with 1,128 new cases of COVID-19 recorded yesterday, increasing the total of cases now to 98,194. Meanwhile, 3 additional deaths have been recorded, increasing that total to 2,486. The deceased are a 46-year-old male from St. Catherine, an 83-year-old female from Clarendon, as well as an 83-year-old female from St. Catherine. Now, of the new infections, 645 are females and 476 are males, ranging in age from 2 months to 96 years. 7 of the new cases are under investigation. In tonight's COVID-19 parish breakdown, Kingston and St. Andrew recorded 480 cases. St. Catherine recorded 211 cases. St. James recorded 80 cases. St. Elizabeth, 66. St. Thomas, 56. Manchester recorded 53 cases, while Portland recorded 45 cases. St. Anne recorded 38. Clarendon, 31. Hanover recorded 24 cases, while Trelawney recorded 22. St. Mary, 9 cases, and Westmoreland recorded 13 cases. In the meantime, there were 89 additional recoveries, increasing the total of recovered persons now to 66,236. In the meantime, the Ministry of Health and Wellness today donated 5,000 COVID-19 self-test kits to the Ministry of Education. Now the donation came as Jamaica's children head back to face-to-face learning this month. Portfolio Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton, while speaking at the handing over, said, quote, "It is far more debilitating on our children to keep them away from school than it is to get them back in. So while there is a risk, we are trying to manage that risk, and that is what we aim to do by distributing these test kits." End quote. Dr. Tufton pointed out that the Health and Wellness Ministry has the full support of school nurses, and it will provide a protocol to school administrators in the use of the test kits, with provisions in place for further assessments should that become necessary. Minister of Education Favour Williams, while thanking the Health and Wellness Ministry, noted that the test kits are intended mainly for use in primary schools, where there are many younger children for whom vaccination against COVID-19 has not yet been approved. In the meantime, just over 60% of primary and secondary schools opened their doors this week, with 173 primary and 120 secondary institutions remaining online, as the Education Ministry attempts to get students back into the classroom, this following close to 2 years of virtual learning. Yesterday, Education Minister Favour Williams said 608 schools opened their doors, adding that so far the majority have reported no issues, except for just over 20 of them that had issues such as students or teachers reporting ill and other issues such as termite problems.
The Easter term would have started on Monday, and it commenced with 608 schools reopened for face-to-face engagement. Of this number, 568 are primary schools, 10 infant schools, and 30 secondary schools across all 7 regions. By those numbers, you would see that there are still many schools that are in the online mode. So we have 173 primary schools and 120 secondary schools that have engaged students using the online modality. So far, the majority of schools that are back in the face-to-face environment have reported no issues. There are some schools that reported to us, and those were 23 schools reported that students or teachers would have called in to say that they have flu-like symptoms and were remaining at home. In one instance, there's one school that reported the principal having called in to say that he had tested positive for COVID and was remaining at home. There was another instance in which a teacher had called in to say that they had to be quarantined at home for some period of time. In terms of the non-COVID related issues that we saw, obviously our ongoing fight is with the termites in our schools, and that situation gets worse when our schools are closed and there's no human being moving around at the school. We spent millions of dollars during the last school year dealing with the termite issues, but of course it's ongoing, and so we continue our efforts in that regard.
Minister Williams also reported on attendance across the various parishes.
In terms of attendance at schools that were open for face-to-face, attendance was mixed. We saw full attendance in the smaller primary schools, and by smaller primary schools we mean schools with 30, 40, 50 students. For the larger schools, attendance was relatively low, but again, these are early days in terms of school reopening, and because schools are using the rotation approach and the staggered resumption, this is what we would expect. As the days go by, we're expecting to see more and more of our students back into the face-to-face environment. So last year we would have announced that we would like our schools to get to a 65% vaccination target among the school's population And of course, we set about doing a number of vaccination blitz. Last time I checked, we had done well over 200 such vaccination blitz all across our secondary schools. Despite all that effort, we were only able to get to 32% at the end of December. We're still continuing vaccination efforts in our schools, but as of this moment, that 65% target is something still to be worked towards. However, we have indicated that all students can come back into the face-to-face environment, and you would have known that the 65% target would have been the national target for Jamaica as well as for the education sector.
Minister Williams further explained the ministry's plans to remedy the learning loss due to the ongoing pandemic.
This year, we will ensure that we do the age 4 assessment of our students in the early childhood sector to see where they are in terms of early literacy and early numeracy, and it's important that we do this assessment so we get a good grasp on the learning loss. We will do our testing at grades 1 and 2. Well, we have begun already having specialist teachers in the primary schools in 8 subject areas, and it will allow for just deeper engagement between the students and the teachers. It will allow for better learning to take place when you have teachers who are specialists in their particular subject areas teaching the subject, from grades 1 to 6. Additionally, as well, you will note that the students who graduated last year in grade 11, they would have missed about a year and a half of face-to-face. And so for those students, or sixth form, the 2 additional sixth form pathway programs that we have implemented will be particularly important for those students to help them to recover the learning loss. And obviously for other students, it will be a case of teachers identifying where the students are in terms of their learning and putting in place programs for them in school. In many cases, additional work, additional homework, additional in-class work for those students.
Still making Mello TV news tonight. The Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation is clamping down on some developers that are in breach of the building codes of the city. Here is Evan Hewitt with more on this story.
Mayor of Kingston and St. Andrew and Chairman of the KSAMC, Councillor Delroy Williams, warns that some developers will be prosecuted if they do not comply with the building codes of the city when conducting construction work.
The KSAC has filed injunctions within the court against several developments across the municipality. We have done so because we have identified building breaches and we have issued the necessary cease work notices and persons have not complied. So in those cases we have taken some of those into the arena of the courts, and there are others being prepared to enter into the courts by way of injunctions. There are other notices, cease work notices that we have served and enforcement notices, and in some cases developers comply and meet with us and work out the breaches, because in some cases the breaches are easily remedied, and once the developers come in and they make the necessary changes or adjustment to remedy those breaches, then the city engineers department will sign off on that, and then we allow them to continue to construct. But in cases where persons refuse to remedy the breaches, then those cases are taken before the courts.
Mayor Williams argued that there are always ways to remedy the issue and get the developers to comply with the building codes.
Breaches vary. There are different levels of breaches. There are some breaches that are very simple, easily remedied. I would say there are some breaches that are far more complex, that goes directly to the structure and not as easily, but then there are always ways to remedy these, and we do find those ways to remedy, And in some cases, you may have to demolish sections of your building, or you have to convert sections of your building for other purposes, like repurpose sections of your building. There are various levels of different types of remedy depending on the building breach. On average, we receive approximately 1,000 applications annually. Most, I would say, upward of 80% would be single-family residential developments. I would say the last figure I saw some time ago, about between 11 to 15% would be multifamily developments. And the multifamily developments are usually the ones that get far more attention, and for good reasons. But there are breaches all over. There are breaches with single-family development. There are breaches with multifamily development, and the KSAC do take the steps to remedy those.
He also explained the extent to which the KSAMC have gone to ensure compliance.
We want the developers to know, the persons who are deliberately building contrary to the approved plan, that don't do so, because we are going to take all the action necessary. We are going to follow all the steps that is provided within the law for you to comply with what is the approval. So we will remedy the situation. And once, in some cases, remedy involves demolition of sections. In some cases, we have had in our history demolition of entire structure.
Evan Hewitt reporting for Mello TV News.
Thank you, Evan, for that report. Continuing with the news tonight, the St. James Police are reporting that the first illegal firearm recovered in the parish since the start of 2022 was seized in the community of Mount Salem this morning. A 26-year-old unemployed man of Clark Street has since been arrested in connection with the seizure. Reports from the police coming into our news center are that shortly after 1 a.m., a team of Jamaica Defense Force JDF soldiers were on patrol along sections of Clark Street when they heard loud music coming from a bar. The soldiers proceeded to the location and found several patrons inside the bar, which was being operated in breach of the COVID-19 Disaster Risk Management Act. While a search was being carried out of the patrons, the suspect was seen throwing an object behind a refrigerator. The object was retrieved and found to be a Glock 22 pistol, fitted with a magazine containing 5 live .40 cartridges. The illegal weapon was retrieved and the suspect taken into custody to be officially charged. In other news tonight, the St. Elizabeth Police Division seized over 1,100 pounds of compressed marijuana in Bisheba District, Newmarket in the parish on Tuesday. No arrests were made in connection with the seizure. Reports coming into our news center are that between the hours of 3:30 and 5:30 p.m., a team conducted a targeted raid at the premises where the find was made. The marijuana has an estimated street value of 4.4 million Jamaican dollars. The police are seeking the public's assistance in locating Jason Cope, otherwise called Kukas, of Happy Hall District, Newmarket in the parish, who is a person of interest in relation to the matter. He was advised to report to the Black River Police Station no later than today. However, up to news time, there was no report of Mr. Cope complying with the orders given by the police. Now, anyone knowing the whereabouts of Mr. Cope can contact the Black River Police at 876-965-2232 or the nearest police station. And that's our news package for you tonight. Thank you for tuning in to Mello TV Evening News at 8. I am Shelley Hill. Do stay safe and pleasant viewing.